Hello. Oh my goodness, Bulgaria. Bulgaria, wow. Hello, Bulgaria. I love that people around the world are able to kind of watch this content. Oh my goodness. Oh, it's been a long year and I have not had a break. Yeah, a lot of people, I would say, we gotta, there's this thing that they teach you in one of the only useful kind of production seminars I've ever been to, where you just make a list of all the stuff you need to do, whatever it is, right? Like on Evolve, for me, it was all the different triggers I needed from code. I'm the writer. So I'm just going to make a list of stuff that could happen in the game that I would like to write dialogue for. Well, the dialogue system needs the code of the game to let it know, hey, this thing happened. And that can be quite complex depending on the trigger. Because there's obviously things you can imagine that you would like to know if this happened in a video game. I would like to know if I get shot by friendly fire and who was who shot me. Well, there are a lot of video games that you've played that do not have what's called a culprit system. Meaning I know I got shot, but the bullet didn't tell me who the owner was. Some games it comes built in with the engine. Oh, you can hear me? You really couldn't hear me at all? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? That's weird. I should have been as loud as the... You should have been able to hear me, though. I think we can probably turn that down a little bit more. You could barely hear me. You couldn't hear me. You could barely hear me. You could barely hear me now. I'm going to come out and come back in again. Moobot is being really aggressive. So also, hang on. Yeah, also, the problem is that these mics, which are only supposed to pick up the thing they're pointed at, actually pick up everything. So sometimes you also get the sound from the thing. Testing, testing. Testing, testing. Mamie Mama Moo. So, what the hell are we talking about? What the hell are we talking about? God, it's been a long year. And it's not getting any shorter. Oh. Yeah, audio for the stream. A lot of people want audio for the stream, music for the stream. And I usually play with audio. With music, I've got a couple different playlists, but I don't own the music to those playlists. And so we've never really had a problem before. We have videos. This is the kind of thing where my attitude was like, well, let's just do what we've done before. But then other people were like, but it's illegal. And the fact that you haven't gotten in trouble for it before is not necessarily back when you were this was putting streams up on YouTube was sort of a hobbyist type of thing. Who cared if you got a copyright strike? And I haven't gotten one for the music. So we used to play with music, and we would use a clip from Conan to start combat, which everybody loved and people miss. When I say people, I mean the players. And this music is very spooky. I don't know that I want to listen to it for the whole stream. And so I would just put on the playlists I had. Some of them are on YouTube, some of them are in Spotify, and I would just make sure that the speaker was somewhere where the players could hear it, but the audience, it was a little bit, you'd have to really be listening. You'd have to really listen and some people could pick it out and some people couldn't. And that was fine, because I sort of assume if you're watching, 3 hours of a live D&D game and you're like, well, there's no music, I wish there was music, that you, the viewer, have the capacity to listen to music somehow, technologically speaking. And this is a problem that I have solved hundreds of thousands of times on my own, of just putting music on when I was doing something else, like watching something that didn't have any music in it. But that's not what people want. People want our music. Fair enough. So a whole bunch of people want that. So we were like, well, let's not just continue using these playlists that we haven't gotten YouTube or Twitch strikes for. Twitch doesn't do strikes, they just mute your video, but you understand what I mean. We don't have to get into the specifics of it. And so we've got a whole list of stuff that we want to fix and want to address. And there's a technique that I learned. It's one of the only useful things I've ever learned in any kind of video game production seminar, of which I've been to many. There's always somebody who's willing and able to make money selling their ideas to video games about how to better organize their process. And every company is like, ooh, this will fix all our problems. Let's pay this person a lot of money to come in and tell us how to run our company. and almost never is anything useful. But the one thing that I did find useful was you just make a list of everything, and you label it, you give it 2 columns and difficulty numbers, and one column is how important is this, and the other column is how hard is this to do. It's important you give it the right numbers in the right order. Importance goes up, and difficulty goes down, or something like that. That way you can just sort it. You can say, this is super important and really easy to do. Let's do that. And that is actually an incredibly useful tool when you have a big, long list of shit to do, and you don't know exactly what order in which, hello Ash, in which to tackle the problems. And so getting music was something that I didn't think was super important, and actually wasn't the highest priority. I mean, it was incredibly useful on Evolve. This is what I was trying to explain earlier on the last video game I worked on, which may be the last video game I worked on. I had a whole list of stuff that I wanted to be able to write dialogue for. Things you can imagine you as a player be like, oh, it'd be nice to know if I got shot by another player, and which other character it was that shot me. Well, that would require the game have what's called a culprit system. And not all video games have culprit systems where each bullet carries with it the knowledge of who shot it. And so you have to go to a programmer and say, hey, I would like the code to let the dialogue system know about these things. And so that was a huge list of things. We just assigned them how important is this cue, is what they're called, sound cues. How important is this cue, and how hard is it going to be to implement? Well, I know one column. I know how important is this. And the programmer goes through and says, how easy or hard is it to do? That was incredibly useful. Like, as far as delta change, it made it so that the programmer could spend just 2 or 3 days and knock out like 10 or 20 of these. And those 10 or 20 because also had the most important at them, which meant that they made a huge difference very quickly in the game, because they were the most important ones that were the easiest to do. So suddenly a lot of really good stuff would go into the game very quickly. And also you would find out this is not that important and almost impossible to do. Okay, let's just not do it. So music is not, the first week, getting the launch done, music was not on our radar. A week later, music was we had cranked out a whole bunch of stuff that was important to us, that was important to the audience, and now music is a little bit more important, but still not important enough for the second stream. So for the third episode, we might start doing some research. We may just use Time Rider stuff. I don't know. I don't know that Time Rider stuff is actually good enough or interesting enough, or we have enough of it, or a lot of Time Rider stuff I do is just ambient noodling, because that's all I have time for. I don't have time to spend, a weekend doing nothing but monkeying with the Time Rider to produce like a song, which is kind of what I thought I was going to be doing with it. But I love the ambient stuff. So we'll see. There are apps online and stuff. There's actually a really nice, we should contact these folks. We have money. There's a really nice app I like, which I'm perfectly happy to plug right now. Let's see if I can find. It's, oh, no, don't do that. Here we go. Do this. So I'm going to link you folks to it. The Pesto Enthusiast. Well, the Time Rider, I can write songs on it. I can write music on it. So the first thing I did was I made a song that had sort of a beginning, a middle, and an end with stuff from the, isn't ambient stuff the only thing you need for background music? Yeah, but you want the right kind. Actually, what I'd like to do is I'd like to contact Lightbath and say, hey, maybe there would be some fiduciary component to this. That would be part of the negotiation. But certainly my audience is vastly larger than somebody like Lightbath's. And just exposing people to his music, I think would be great. And I think Lightbath stuff would be perfect. Just have a playlist of Lightbath music on in the background. We'll see. But I'm about to put a link in the chat. So those of you watching, when I say here, check this out, it's not something you can see here. It's something in chat, which may scroll by very quickly. But this is super fucking cool and useful for me as a dungeon master, and I've used it a lot, except it is a proprietary tool, and I think that for your home use in your home game, it's great, but for a stream, we would have to get some rights. And it's amazing because you can pick different, basically loops. Actually, you know what? I could do this with the Time Rider if I had the loops. What he's doing is it's just the bitbox through a VCA with LFOs on the VCA. I just might need more than one. I only have one quad VCA, and it's got these really cool. Damn it! I missed the link. Here it is again. Paste it again. Man, I was wiped out today. God, I was super wiped out today, and I was wiped out right until I hit. Let's switch to this mode and start talking to you folks, and you folks are helping me wake up. So what it is, this site, I don't know what it's called, mynoise.net, Noise Machines. There's a couple of different dungeon RPG soundscape. There's a couple of different presets in there you can go and look at. Oh, there's one for a dark forest, or here's one for, right? And what it does is it just takes different loops. It just takes different loops of audio, and you can assign them volume levels. But what you can also do is you can have the volume levels change over time. And you can, very much like the Time Writer with LFOs, and you can control the rate of change for the different ways. So it's not exactly, it's not static, it's changing over time, and that's what stops something from being kind of like, you know, what's what I'm looking for? Boring and repetitive and distracting. So I could probably just go get a bunch of those loops and put them into the bitbox. That's what the bitbox is for. And then just have the loops, and then use something to control, use LFOs to control the VCAs to turn the volume up and down, right? You all know about LFOs to VCAs, right? You've been doing your homework. So this is the early, those of you who have never joined us for a live stream before, I spend, you know, sometimes 20 minutes just ringing chat out to get everyone's like, hey, I have questions. Hey, here's what's going on. Oh, we're also going to have, so here's something that's super important. Way more important than having background music, I think. A fallen wolf. Well, welcome to the first. So the first thing we do is we hang out, we talk for a little while, and then we start doing the world building. We love you, Matt. We move you, Matt. I've got some go juice and some regular juice. So what the hell was I talking about? People being timed out? Why? What happened to, Moobot timed out Joni Leo 2000? Why? That's a huge fuck off. Yeah, that's why. Because unfortunately, Moobot gets really aggressive about how long, like that dude, you copied and pasted that Joni Leo 2000. That's why Moobot's like, that message is too long. This is just, we've run out of, this is just orange. So I'm like, we had a friend of ours who is a audio pro come in and mix our stuff for us. But I think his priority was making it so that, so there's a term called crosstalk, and we here in this conversation need to make a distinction between two different phenomena. One is sort of a player-facing phenomenon, and one is kind of a sound engineer phenomenon. But we use the term like crosstalk to refer to both of them. So we're gonna start using the term table talk to mean Matt and Phil are having a RPG conversation, and Lars and Anna are arguing about a rule, right? That's table talk. That is, there's too many people talking, right? And there's probably no technological solution for that, right? Maybe if we had a full-time sound guy on the board, and that person really understood the game, the actual mechanics of D&D really well. I don't mean the rules of D&D, but I mean the way it is played. That person could be like live muting and mixing things, but even then I think that probably wouldn't work. So that's table talk. So we personally can change the way we play to reduce that, and we are conscious of it, and that's going to be something moving forward. But then there's crosstalk. Crosstalk is when you have two microphones, right? And the thing you want this microphone to hear is being picked up by this microphone and this microphone. And that's not necessarily a problem depending on how far away they are. But I've done a podcast before where it was a live thing, and it was me and a friend of mine, and the speed of sound was determined, and we were like, oh, the mics are too far away. We're at a conference table. We need to sit closer together because otherwise my audio is coming into your microphone, and because it's far enough away and the speed of sound, it would boop, boop, and you'd get this delay sound, right? So that's one of our current setup is designed. Our current setup is designed to make it so that there's very little crosstalk, and that is a huge success. Although people do not know that. People say, well, the audio sounds like this and the audio sounds like that. And I think most people think the audio is fine. But people who are critically listening are like, wow, this sounds like this and this sounds bad, blah, blah, blah. But what you're not hearing is you're not hearing me in Tom's microphone. And that's because of a whole bunch of technology that's happening right now. And that's good. That's as designed. That's how you want it. So there's a problem with the system that we are not having because we had an audio guy come in. Unfortunately, the flip side of that is we all sound sort of really tinny. And there's a lot of compression is what that is. Thin is another word. Tinny is probably not the best way of putting it. But So we're gonna have another somebody who's kind of higher ranking audio pro come by, somebody that we're gonna pay, not just a friend of ours to come. And so tier 1 was launch the stream, make it listenable. I think it is listenable. Tier 2, now that the stream is going, now we can kind of solve other problems, which is make it good. So these are all things that are on the yeah, I think Levi 762. It all depends on what your standard is. And there are some people who have really high standards for this stuff, and there are some people who are watching going, I don't know what people are complaining about. So we'll see. Hopefully next week we can get a running the game video done. This is one of those things where the goal is to do a running the game video every week, a live stream every week, a campaign diary every week, maybe a world building video every week. That's 4 videos a week. That's quite a lot. And it's not, YouTube has taught me that we don't have to do a running the game video every week. We've had huge growth in times when we were doing nothing but putting out a campaign diary once or twice a month. And I've talked to a lot of people, including people at YouTube, that are like, that weekly cadence thing is a myth. There are people who put out videos every week that get no growth, and people who get huge growth and no. But we got to be able to make some running the game videos. There's lots of stuff I want to talk about. But right now, because I've got a live show, I'm not just prepping D&D, I've got a live show. I was talking to Matt Mercer about this yesterday. And there aren't a lot of people there are a few, but there aren't a lot of people that understand this that I can talk to. And Matt's been doing it. This is one of the huge things for me, is knowing Matt's been doing this every week for like 4 years now, almost 4 years. So it can be done. But that feeling of before, and you're dungeon masters, you watch Running the Game, we're all dungeon masters here. You could sit there and be like, well, it's game night, it's morning of game night, I better get ready. I better start prepping, and I've got all day. If you're lucky enough to have all day. I'm lucky enough to have all day. I could roll into work on Wednesday morning and start prepping the session and probably be ready by Wednesday night. Probably. But what if not? Probably is not 100%. What if I'm not ready? Well, guess what? There's going to be some number of thousands of people currently. We'll see how long it lasts. But some number of thousands of people watching, and we have a schedule and it's a product. And so better be ready before Wednesday, right? In case something happens. Better be ready, especially considering D&D the way I run. I like presentations, so I will have an idea of like, oh, it'd be cool if I had a blank for this. And now I got to go buy it and make it or record it or something. It'd be cool if I had a sound effect for this. So waiting until the last minute, which is say Wednesday. So that's why we didn't do a running the game video last week, was because I was spending my time prepping the show. I probably didn't need to. I probably could have called it good, but we still have to get to a point where I feel comfortable saying I'm just going to spend one day working on my campaign, which is, that's quite a lot of time. There are very few DMs who can spend an entire day. They have to cobble together their prep time over the course of days and hours here and there over the course of the week. So we should be able to get there. It's just right now, I'm really paranoid of, we gotta. So we visited so I hope that makes sense, right? Like eventually we will get used to and secure in our production, and I'll be like, I can roll in, I can do a day's work. Maybe that day's work will be on Monday. I'll do a day's work on Monday, get the stream ready, and then I can have Tuesday and Wednesday to do stuff like running the game. It's crazy. Dream Whiffs, Jen, it's Jennifer Kretschmer. I recognize you, even though you tried to bury your name inside your Twitter handle. Dream Wisp is her Twitter handle. It's crazy. Jennifer Kretschmer is awesome. Follow her on Twitter. I got these are the permanent crowns. This was yesterday morning. So yeah, it's been a long week. So the players are now on the Sea of Stars, and something has happened to Nails. And those of you who look at them nashes. Yeah, RJ Boston, I think there's a good chance we'll be in PAX Unplugged. I think that's kind of one show we're definitely gonna go to. Got to figure out the schedule and stuff like that. The hell was I talking about? F. Yeah, so Nails is gonna and those of you who watch the campaign diary, I'm gonna do something. Argentum Flare is half right. It's a unique combination of 2 different phenomenon, or 3 if you count genetics. What you did make me think is I've played Division the Original Sin, although I didn't play much of it. Who is we? I don't remember what I said. We being MCDM, I assume we're talking about. Do you plan on killing more PCs later in the campaign? I've only ever planned to kill 1 PC, and you already saw that. and that PC was in on the fix. However, there's at least one. Those of you who you're gonna get a campaign diary soon. I've recorded it, and I'm about 2/3 of the way through editing it. It'll probably go up Monday. I think Monday might be a good time for campaign diaries. You're gonna get a campaign diary in which we do something I have never done before. And I in the middle, at the end of the campaign diary, I say, okay, if you don't want spoilers for next week, do not watch the rest of this video. And in this video, I explain what is happening to Nails. And it's the first time I've ever done a campaign diary. It's the first time, as far as I know, like anybody who does this thing I do, is letting you folks know what's coming up. Because I want to make sure, actually, in the sense of lots of DMs have, and I have before said, hey, here's my prep for next week. This is different. This is letting the viewers who want this information in on a dramatic setup. So, and you're going to be like, so, you know, I mean, the analogy here is, imagine if you all knew what was going to happen to the commander before the first stream. That would not have been very dramatic. It would have saved me a lot of heartache, probably, because we had a whole bunch of people who were super eager to tell me that I'm a terrible dungeon master because all my friends had a lot of fun. And apparently in their game, that is not allowed. But I wouldn't have had to deal with that if more people had known, more people besides Lars and Phil, had known about what was coming. It was funny watching Anna when I was talking to Matt and Liam about what happened. Anna was like, I didn't know there was, I'm like, no, and you weren't meant to. You were the audience for what happened to the commander. The people watching weren't the audience for what happened to the commander. Anna, Tom, and sort of Phil. Phil didn't know, was, yeah. So anyway, I think we've had enough blah blah, right? Yeah, I mean, ultimately, this is the refrain. I interact with comments on YouTube a lot more than I think probably other, I mean, I'm sure there are some doing it more, but I go through comments all the time because the secret to having a good community is just aggressively deleting all the wang rods. And there's a whole lot of people on YouTube that wanted to tell me, you know, what a bad dungeon master I am. But what I say is, all I say is I don't really defend myself. I don't think there's any point in that. What I say is, my players had a blast and I had a blast. And usually the person will respond and they'll be like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. Sorry. And it's like, ultimately at the end of the day, you know, I would like the show to succeed. And but it's possible for the show it's a truth table, right? There's the show and there's the campaign. And the show could succeed or the show could fail. The campaign could succeed, the campaign could fail. And those are two different axes. Every combination is possible. But right now, my focus is, are my players having fun? And so far they are. Even though they haven't yet got to kind of do anything other than react to stuff, really. And that'll change once they get to Capital. So I think it's time to start doing the world building stuff. We'll see how far we get. We'll definitely, I think, see the players. I think we might do something, I don't know when, early would be better, if we could do some kind of one-on-one or two-on-one stuff with some of the heroes, because I think the players would get to know their characters better if they got more time to soak in them. If that makes any sense. We'll see. All right. Oh, Intelligent Tyke, can you plug your chat? I'm sorry, you've asked that a couple times, but I didn't know what you meant. I thought you meant like plug in. Like plug in. Can you interface? So yeah, what is it today? Today's Saturday. So a week from yesterday at 11 o'clock. Spaghetti flinging soon. Like maybe next week or the week after. Well, I remembered it, Intelligence Dice. You weren't pestering me. Theater. Well, I mean, it depends on your point of view, Renoxius. So next Friday, this coming Friday, the Friday that is the next one we are going to encounter together, Adam and I will be doing another live chat, and we'll probably talk about all sorts of stuff. And it'll be on his Twitch channel, Adam Coble. Adam's a really smart guy. The Rosso Cielo. I pronounce it. Hello from Italy. Hello, Italy. Your pronunciation of Rosso Cielo is bewildering. My pronunciation is authoritative. I'm the only person anywhere on Earth that knows how to pronounce it correctly, because I'm the only person that speaks Riojan. So if you want to know how to pronounce it, listen to me, because I'm the only person that can get it right. Knowing Italian is not going to help you, because they don't speak Italian. Yeah, Adam's a smart dude. So let's first of all, let's tune down the spooky music. I'm thinking this is something I spent some time on. This is something last interview felt weird to me. Well, then Lorsrat, you don't even need to, so you already know everything you need to know. You don't even have to say that. You can think it. You just know, don't watch the next one, because the last one was awesome. I love the chat with Adam. I would love to do that every week. So the good news is, Lorsrat, you have all the information you need to avoid that unpleasant scenario next time by not watching. So this was, I think this music is going to be it might turn into the soundtrack to the Sea of Stars, which is where they are right now. Well, Iconoplast, the thing is that it's generally speaking, what I think we're trying to figure out is what my ideas are. A lot of people want to send me their ideas, but most of the folks watching, or at least some of the folks watching, and a lot of people paying for the content want to know what I think. Hey, Poland, there's a couple of great modular companies in Poland. So this might be the soundtrack. It might turn into the soundtrack to the Sea of Stars. We'll see. So, but let's change to something a little bit more listening. Hello from Scotland. I would love to go to Scotland. I'd love to go back to Scotland. I've been to Scotland. Can you give us a top 5? I would not be the person to know. I think probably you can go to Twitch. If you go to Twitch, so Elza's Charms asks, can you give us a top 5 D&D streams? I would say that probably the best way to find that out is to go to Twitch and go to the category D&D and just sort. Can you sort by popularity? Because I wouldn't know. Let us put some music on. Nerd, what are the lights? Exclamation point lights. I have had many good friends of mine are Swedish. I worked with a whole bunch of awesome Swedes, and they were super dope, and I became their hero on Mercenaries 2 because they got to meet and hang out with Peter Stormare, who was one of the main characters in our game, and that dude is just super fucking cool. He is super chill and awesome to talk to, and interacting with his fans was great. He just wanted to hang out and talk to them and talk about hockey and stuff like that. This is a dude who in the middle of a session had to take a phone call, which is quasi unusual because we're there to get some work done. But we would often be stopping and talking about how to deliver lines, so that was fine. And it was a phone call from his brother, who was a cop in Sweden, and he had just busted somebody and was calling his brother to talk about it. And the dude, all the cops were on snowmobiles, and the criminal was on a snowmobile. I was like, that is awesome. All right, so what's this? So many of you have heard these songs before. Actually, we could just put Light Bath on. I'm just gonna put Light. I feel like I should reach out to these people and say, hey, by the way, I'm using your music as background to my stream. Is this going to turn into, is this just music? Probably. It might get a little... Desktop audio is weird because there's like the mixer and my volume control. Sorry, I apologize. All right, let's get going. Matt, you okay? I'm wiped out, man. More to Nerd, how you doing? I'm wiped out. It's been, how long has it been since the Kickstarter launched? It's been like 10 months of 100% every week. How was Bang? We played Bang. Me and MCDM and Liam and Matt played Bang yesterday. And it was a lot of fun. We only played one game, but Liam was the Renegade, and I think it's the first time he's ever played the Renegade. I think it's only the second time he's ever played Bang, and he just fucking he literally killed every other player in the game. One of them, Anna, by dynamite. It was his dynamite killed Anna, and then he just went with a volcanic and was playing Anniversary, and he just annihilated all 3 outlaws and then killed the sheriff. All right. The 3 hours when I'm playing D&D it's still even when I wasn't streaming, running D&D is still a lot of work. All right, so let's switch. We're about to transmute ourselves through various dimensions in order for me to be facing all the content. And it's difficult, it's biologically challenging, it violates the Myers theorem and many other laws of physics, but it must be done. There we go. So now we have to transmute. We have transmuted ourselves, and here we can see our Google Doc. Thank goodness for Google Doc. Otherwise, how would anything get done? I normally would use Excel and just have everything in a Dropbox, but even though Dropbox syncs across all my devices, occasionally there's a problem with the conflict, and I get to work, and the stuff I was doing last night or this morning before work, I don't have access to, and that's frustrating. So we changed to, hair's not looking bad, considering I did almost nothing to it. I cannot vouch too much for this playlist. There may be stuff that goes into it that but if you want to listen, if you want to check out Lightbath stuff, this guy's ambient modular stuff is just amazing. All right. So we are only a week or two, I think. Well, like this, I think the players are going to be. Stand by. I think the players are going to be in Capital. So I think the players are going to be on the Sea of Stars, which is my name for the Astral Sea. I think the players are going to be on the Sea of Stars for 2 weeks. And then I believe after that, they're going to get to Capital. So we've got a couple of weeks before we are going to be actually playing in the city we created. And those of you who were watching the live stream part 2 last week, you got to see the first explanation. You get to see the first exposition. The introduction of a lot of these ideas through the lens of characters, right? The players are traversing the Astral Sea to get between 2 continents. The players, were you watching the stream? There are lots of ways to get between those 2 continents. The Astral Sea is not. Well, then you know what happened. So, man, the name of the prince. I guess you're DMJ. I guess. So yeah, you got to hear Gadesto and some of the other Riohan crew members talk about what's going on in Capital, and I love doing that stuff because, as I think you saw, a grossly underutilized function of NPCs is, and we did a whole video on this, might be worth doing another one because, we've got, I think, good evergreen YouTube channels, like Dr. Crawford's channel, he does this. He'll just cover the same subject again because a whole bunch of people are joining up new. Like, there are lots of old ContraPoints videos that I don't go back and watch because she hates them. And there are other reasons. I can see why she hates them, by the way. And so when she says, my old videos, I wish I could go to her and say, kill them, cut them now. Don't be Gary Gygax working on first edition D&D and be like, man, I wish I could switch armor class so that went up instead of down, but I think the ship has sailed on that because isn't the game basically at its peak? No, it's going to be way more popular. Like 90% of the people who will ever watch you haven't watched you yet. So don't feel like, well, that's probably not what's motivating her. Dangerous to psychoanalyze people. But, so that we may just redo this video. But the signal to noise ratio. NPCs are an opportunity to introduce ambiguity regarding the nature of your world because they believe they will say things like the dragon phalanx are incorruptible. And players, if they don't know any better, and if they're new to the game, they probably don't, because I don't think like NPCs in video games tend to do this, although they should. That's not true. The dragon knights are not incorruptible. You met a corrupted dragon knight. You met Mandrake the Betrayer. But they believe in the Dragon Knights. That's the propaganda. So Gadesto, there's things he doesn't know about Capital. He doesn't know what happened in that one. He knows that something crazy, like a plague. There was something crazy happened in one district of Capital, but he wasn't there for it, and that was relatively recently. And he might have been back to Capital once since then, but he might not even have gotten off the boat. Like depending on what they were there for. So they have all sorts of different ideas about what's going on in Capital. They don't have perfect knowledge, right? And the things that they do know, they're not sure about, or they are sure and they're wrong. And that's an awesome opportunity for you as a dungeon master to roleplay stuff. And so I love giving folks different points of view and wrong knowledge. Let's see, stand by. So let's see, since we're getting pretty close, we got a lot of work to do. We've talked about, we did the early work. I mean, we've done a lot of work on Capital because all the work we did on the gods is all going to pay off. I'm going to have to write that up into a document that's human parsable. I am one of the humans that needs to be able to parse it. So we did a bunch of work on that. We've started working on we have the map of Capital up here, which you can't see me pointing at because it's in OBS, but we have the map of Capital that's above my head. And you can see that. You can see the mouse moving. We have the map of Capital. We know it all. We know who all 7 of the major factions are. We know what the central conflict is. We know a lot about House Alvaro. You heard about Duke when they were asked. Wasn't it interesting? Spoilers. Wasn't it interesting to hear the heroes just flat out ask, "Hey, who would you work for? Who would you work for if you were us?" Right? And it's like, well, do you want to sleep at night or do you want to win? And right? I didn't know they were going to ask that. I didn't know they were going to ask that, and I didn't know how Gadesto would react. Right? But certainly, God, I love D&D. But certainly in that moment, Gadesto would be like, well, I have my own ideas about that, and I don't know you guys super well. So let me ask, like, who do you, and I don't think I even covered that in the campaign diary. I should have. It's not too late. I could do an addendum. I'm here in the place where we record them at. In fact, let me make a note of that. Because that was a super, super useful thing, right? In fact, Levi Phipps, I didn't even ask that. I didn't ask, do you want to sleep at night or do you want to win? I should have. I asked something similar, but not exactly that language. So he said he would probably, because everybody on the Raw Socielo, with the exception of the captain, are all Riojan. And they're all Riojan who would prefer not to live in Capital. Why? Well, I don't know, it's a good question. They all have their different reasons, but Gadesto probably thinks that Duke Prospero is going to win ultimately. Oh, hey, you guys can see all this stuff. Yeah, look at that. Is there anything on here? What's this? That's a typo. Yeah, we did that. Ooh, you've learned the name of the. You just may have learned the name of Act 1. The bad guys from Act 1. Do you have a distinction between demons and devils in your setting? That's a good question. But not, I don't think, appropriate for the stream. There's a point where we have to start being a little bit more kind of, a little bit more on topic. That's a very early stream question. And now we're in the middle of the stream. We've got to get some work done. All right, so we know a lot about Duke Prospero and House Alvaro. Whether or not I'll be able to remember all this stuff, like what the different colleges are called, I don't know. That's going to have to go into a document that I can read. And then we learned a lot about the Fulcrum last week, right? And this is important because the Fulcrum is the guild that controls the docks. We learned a little bit about their security, the state line constables. Dr. Daggerfall has asked another question that is, I think, probably not appropriate for this point in the stream because we got to get some work done. But if we do net hack tonight, which we might just take a short break. I'll get some food and come back in some net hack. What's the Prince Regent's name? Still not worried about that. Like, his name is, I used to be in charge, but now I'm dead. And so therefore I am of interest only to historians. So, I'm sure you did. I didn't see it, unfortunately. That's not how the chat works, Dr. Daggerfall. It's not a take a number and you get. We don't sell. This isn't a butcher shop. We go through everybody's question number by number. Shirome is the name of the woman who runs. She's a Gagarin. This I know just off the top of my head. And her lieutenant. Can I remember the name of her? Do I remember anything about her lieutenant? It's another woman, isn't it? Somebody from Panagar. I don't remember the name of it. Olava. I was close. Olava. That's pretty good. I got close enough that I could have looked it up. You have covered this before, but why would the prince not be resurrected? Well, let me ask you a question, Bad Splur. Does everyone in your D&D game of sufficient power just live forever and constantly get resurrected? Is that an assumption that you make about all sufficiently powerful people in your D&D world, and there's just basically a super class of immortals? Because there are answers to these questions, but hopefully, if you're a DM, you have also worked out those answers. So let's see. So we have what's the topic for today? I've been dancing around this. I apologize, but it's the fact that the players are getting close to capital. That's the subject. That's the reason I said they're probably going to spend about 2 weeks on the Astral Sea. I hope. Maybe more. You never know how much. We've been doing pretty well so far of me turning sessions into episodes, and that's fun for me. I like it. I wish I had been streaming D&D 20 years ago, because the discipline of thinking I'm used to. We talked about this. I'm used to running D&D in terms of rooms. How many rooms in the dungeon have they cleared? And so you can have a huge dungeon that'll take months and months of play to get through, and so you just play until you're burned out and you stop. But we're all older now. We're not teenagers or in college anymore, and so I think a transition to plots, how much story have we gotten through, is probably better for everybody, both the players and the dungeon master and the viewers. So I've done pretty good for the first 2 sessions, I feel like, and ending on the cliffhangers that I expected to end on without only playing for 20 minutes or ending up playing for 6 hours. So far, so good. We'll see. I'm sure there'll be some normal variation, and we'll end up with unusually short streams or unusually long streams as we get to the ends of an episode early or late. So we've got about 2 episodes, and then they're going to get to capital. So now is time to kind of stop doing the world building we've been doing up until now, which is like, well, let's just talk about whatever is next and whatever is interesting, and let's actually begin the process of dealing with what is player facing. So we're going to create a new page here, and we're going to call it the docs. And now we're entering this kind of gray area between prepping a setting and prepping an adventure. We're going to talk about the kinds of things that will happen to the players when they arrive at the docks. What happens to somebody when they get to the docks? What kinds of things do they see? What kind of people will they interact with? Sorry. Stand by. I don't know why. There we go. I don't mind you guys seeing my bookmarks. There's nothing there that's weird, but I think for framing purposes, this is useful. Well, I would say, so the way I'm thinking about it right now, Tally First, which is a variation of the way I've been running D&D now for several years, is I think in terms of like chapters and books. And, I think probably the chain is going to have like 2 or 3 books in the series. And each book has chapters. But each chapter, the analogy is not perfect because it breaks down right now. Each chapter has episodes. Right? And right now they're in sort of chapter 1. Yeah, which is the getting to capital part. Nerd. We do need a nerd. We need a nerd. We need a nerd emote. I gotta make a note of that. I gotta make a note of the nerd. live stream production. We need a nerd emote into my office, in my company's chat, and very, very unlike Jerry watches, I think Jerry watches all the live streams. So Jerry, we need a nerd emote. But probably Anna and Lars like, the fuck is a nerd? Did you say Ute? Thank you for the sub, TJ Stevie Steve. I think it's nerd with a U. I think it's spelled like it sounds. What do you guys think of the background music, by the way? Can you hear it? J-Tubs, thank you for the sub. Also, Kale Reader. I know you, Kale Reader. I see you all the time. Kale Reader, longtime supporter of the channel. Very active in the Discord. It's chill and you like it. And it's not too loud and not too quiet. Good. 4 months in a row! Sulu244, my God, makes me happy. See, I think this could be great background music for the stream. I should reach out to Lightpath and say, let's talk about getting your music in front of thousands of people. So let's see what... We're not designing encounters, by the way. We're talking about what is the player-facing experience of arriving at the docks. So what kind of stuff is going to happen? This may be not a very productive stream. I've said that many times, and I've been very happy with each of our streams so far. But past success is no guarantee of future behavior. Right, Dexton Feldark, you're welcome. It's super good. So definitely there's going to be some interaction with customs. Right. And they're going to see there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There are 6 different neighborhoods. Right. And they're going to spend their time in the first one. They're going to spend all the time in the first neighborhood, which I don't know the name of. I don't know if we're going to figure out names today. I think I'm too wiped out for that. Although, let's look at a map of medieval. Well, let's go back to our friend Caravaggio. And let's see, I spelled that guy's name wrong. There's only one R there at the beginning. Let's find out, like, where did that guy live when he was a real, like, awesome painter motherfucker. Rome, Naples, Malta, Sicily. Yeah, okay, those are all good answers. So let's take a look at a map of medieval Rome. Not ancient Rome. Not ancient Rome. A map of medieval Rome. Hello, Dan Bookman. Welcome aboard. Plines14 and Finvider. Welcome aboard. Thank you for the subs. I appreciate it. I also subscribe. I like the lead poison 445. I've deciphered your name. I read your book. Thank you for the sub. 4 months. Makes me happy. How shop happy are the players? Nah, not traditionally, but I'd like to give them. So are there? I don't think there is a magic store. I don't think there's a place to buy magic. The docks isn't that kind of. What do you mean by medieval Rome? What do you mean? What do I mean? I mean Rome in the medieval era. Go look up the medieval, and then go look up Rome, and put those two definitions together. Here we go. This is a map of medieval Rome. But see, there's where you get the name of the empire. There's one of the hills of Rome. Yeah, there are definitely, like, this map's not good enough. What I'm looking for is I just want to see a medieval city, preferably a, Italian medieval city that is broken up, and I can see what they call the different districts and neighborhoods. I just want to get a sense of what in this is my process. This is one of the reasons that we are soon, in the next, I would say, in February, we'll probably see the end of the world building streams. Because obviously you can see it's taking a toll on me. I get one day off a week, which is Sundays, and I end up spending about half the day just sleeping. and it's catching up with me. But also because I have a handful of techniques, and you have got to see me use them many, many, many times. So the purpose of the world building streams is not to build a world together. The purpose of the world building streams is to make it so that people who have never done this before, who are new dungeon masters and just want at least one example of how do you make stuff, now at least have one example. And they should have many examples, including their own, but they'll have mine, and they'll know in one of my techniques as well, how do things in the real world work? That's a great starting place. Florence, FL Flantes says. Flantes, let's try. It's funny that you guys got to see my post-it notes, because one of the things I did today or yesterday was I deleted the post-it note that had, you would have got to see all the plot points for the adventure, and all of them struck through as I went one by one and had written them all up, which would have been neat, I think. Map. Ooh. I feel like I just there's better maps here. Yeah, but they're probably not going to be broken up. So I may not. This is one of those things that's going to be a deep dive for me and take a lot of research, and not the kind of thing that is going to very quickly produce fertile results, which means it's bad for the stream. So let's keep, we'll come back to the fact, we know there are 6 neighborhoods. So one of the things I know is that they're certainly going to meet, like, you know, let's call him the apple seller. I already know who this guy is, although he didn't used to sell apples, but I think he will now. I think the apple seller is going to turn into cut me on throat dip. There was already the player. So those of you guys want spoilers. I'm sorry. We're now entering the spoiler territory. I apologize. But I mean, all of the world building streams have been a spoiler, by the way. If you didn't want to be spoiled, if you wanted player facing experiences of what it's like in Rioja, then you shouldn't have watched any of the world building streams, because you already knew who the gods are and you know about all sorts of stuff. But there was already going to be a dude that they were going to meet. This has been true for like a year, who is like probably a sausage seller. And he was going to be based on he was an amalgam of a couple of characters, but one of them was certainly Cut Me on Throat Dibbler. And in my mind, I've been role-playing that guy, but now I think he's probably going to be an apple seller. He had a great line I wrote, which I don't think I stole from Terry Pratchett, where he was selling these like meat pies or whatever, and if the players asked what was in them, he would be like, 100% authentic meat. You put some mustard on it, can't tell the difference. And they'd be like, wait, tell the difference, wait. Authentic meat. Can't tell the difference between what and what. So I don't know if that joke is still going to work. I don't know if it's still going to work with an apple seller. 100% authentic meat. Put some mustard on it. Can't tell the difference. Difference between what and what. And the apple seller is going to have a lot of information, but they're also probably going to meet representatives from all the different guilds, all the different major powers. So that's probably not the right way to put it. They're not like ambassadors, but they're going to get exposed to the central tension. That's a better way of putting it. They're going to get exposed to the central tension. This is very high level, very high level. We will dig down on some of this stuff, I hope. Exposed to the central tension. They're also going to I was just going to say something, but I had to explain what I just wrote. This is another reason I think we need to stop doing the world building stream so I get more done. They're going to get exposed to the central tension of the setting. And I don't know exactly how that's going to manifest itself. They're certainly going to read a broadsheet. And I already know what the headline of that broadsheet is. No spoilers for that. They're going to, that's the other thing. They're going to get exposed to the profoundly multi-ethnic nature of capital. So these are things that we're going to have to, this is kind of a list of, there's a checklist. Each one of these is going to turn, like, read a broadsheet. I have to write a broadsheet. Exposed to the profoundly multi-ethnic nature. I'm going to have a list of the people and things we're going to see. But there's going to need to be stuff to do. There's going to be stuff for them. This is the beginning of, this is going to be the beginning of them being free to do things. So Headline, everything's awful, please help. Yeah, this is the beginning of the sandbox. Gabrielle? It's not a question. That's not, by the way, a question regarding gender. It's a question regarding where in the world you're from. They're going to need a place to stay. Right? That's something to do. That's a very early... I saw your message. They're good 1000. I probably won't do that. I'll probably stick to my own brute force method. They're going to need a place to stay, which means we need to figure out what the name of an inn is. People will try to sell them stuff, so hang on a minute. Like, this is not incredibly useful, because all we're doing is making a list of things we have to do. We're not actually getting anything done, which may be a sign that this is not going to be a super useful stream. They're going to need a place to stay. This is the beginning of their ability to kind of set their own goals. But players, these are going to be, you've seen the players, they're going to be very reactive for a while. So we need to give them stuff to react to. We can't just dump them on the docks and expect them to suddenly self-organize and motivate. So things need to happen to them. Things need to happen. We need to give them a chance to react to stuff. I don't know exactly what that's going to be right now. But I'd like to know a little bit more about the language that the people in Rioja use. Like, what is their version of, like, language? You know, what's their version of motherfucker and holy shit and stuff like that. Yeah, I think they should definitely be exposed to, like... I like that, by the way. Doesn't have to be a big deal. It could just be something happening off to the side. One of the first things they do, so when they come through customs, they are going to have to exchange their gold for notes. There's probably some kind of cultural thing there where Riojans enjoy punning on musical notes as opposed to bank notes, but I'm not going to worry about that right this second. So, again, we're not making progress. I'm just making a list. This may be something I have to do offline. So let's talk about, like, this is kind of adventure prep, but not really. This isn't the hard work of adventure prep. This is kind of the early work that's fun and simple. They're going to meet a reporter, right? I've known this for a while. They're going to meet a reporter. Let me nerd this down a little bit, nerd. This is somebody who's going to meet them and ask them questions, and it should be somebody who's presenting themselves on purpose as being, you know, some kind of cop, and they're going to talk to this person. I think it's going to be a while before anybody, like, literally tries to press them into service, but I'm going to have to do, so let's see. I'm just trying to think of what the different factions are and how the different factions are going to present themselves. So the fulcrum, the players are going to, and so this is maybe a more useful way of looking at it. The players are going to interact with these different factions. Maybe not all as soon as they get there. Maybe over the course of the first 2 or 3 sessions, they'll have interactions. And it's not like these factions are on purpose trying to reach out to the chain for any reason. It's just that they're the most powerful organizations in capital. It's difficult to be someone as, you know, high level and useful as the chain and not just run into these folks. So we know what the interaction at the docks is going to be. That's going to be customs. There's going to be customs and so customs. So let's split that out. right? Because we know that customs and immigration is this dual function thing where there's a guild master and a nobleman. So we can say that exchanging gold for notes is an interaction with the fulcrum. You can see where this is going, right? This is going to start turning into something useful, I think. So I don't know what that interaction is going to be. I don't know who that person is. I'm not worried about that right now. We're going to dig down on that later, right? So, but that's the interaction with the agent of the fulcrum. And then we're going to have an interaction with, this is the, what's the word for this? What do they do? What does it mean when customs goes through all your stuff? So this is an interaction with customs, which we don't know which house is in charge of that. Let's go find out. I don't want to make this all about Prospero. He's only one of 3 left paren, 4 right paren noble houses. So this is definitely going to be something where it's House Verona, Lord of the Admiralty's interaction. So this is. So this is a naval dude, probably a minor nobleman and a naval officer, right? So this is another interaction. Can you guess how many interactions it's going to have? There's going to be 7 interactions, 1 for each of these houses, right? I don't know how this is going to all work out. The dead lady, there's probably going to be a tax or something. There's going to be a fee. There's going to be a fee, an import fee, an excise tax, incise tax. I don't know what those words mean. There have been 2 times so far in the stream that I've genuinely smiled for the first time in a long time without fear, because I have teeth now, and that was one of them. I'm not going to worry about this yet. This is a huge part of adventure design, world building, and writing, and life, I think, is knowing what to worry about when. And it's very easy to think, oh, this is a problem, and therefore I need to start at the beginning and work until I've solved the problem. But that's not how life works. We're going to spend a little bit of time just identifying it, understanding the shape of it, and then move on to the next one, and then come back. So this is going to be some kind of import duty. That's customs. Maybe the dead lady should be in charge of customs. No, let's keep it the Imperial Navy. Let's keep it with the Imperial Navy. So this might be a weird confluence, right? But I definitely love the idea. This is our interaction. Where there's this guy, this very gray-skinned dude who's got spotty hair, and Orpheus 0311, thank you. I've got a fantastic dentist. I gotta make a note to go on Yelp. In fact, let's open up Yelp. That'll be my note. My note is opening up Yelp. I'm not really a Yelper. Is that the name of the thing of the people who Yelp do? Are you Yelpers if you Yelp? But I definitely want to make sure I leave a good review, because that stuff makes a sense. Makes a difference. So now I have put it. I've opened a web page for it. Is beginning of doing it. Interaction with the dead lady. This is going to be a dude. He's a man in the suit. He just happens to be dead. All right, get it? So, whoa. Oh, that's right. I forgot my mouse has I have an up, down, and a left, right, which I almost never use. I wish I used it more. So let's bold this, because I want to make sure strategic bolding is an incredibly useful tool in our organizational toolbox. It's very easy to pick out what we're trying to do. So we're going to have interaction with the fulcrum, interaction with House Verona, interaction with the dead lady, and interaction with the church. Well, who runs the church? What are they in charge of? How do they get their power? I don't know. Dork. Probably I'm not the first person to call him that. Duke Orsino, Lord of House Navarre, the oldest house. Most powerful. Oh, it's interesting that I said this guy was the most powerful nobleman in Rioja, but I think I've since changed my mind on that. I think it's Duke Prospero is the guy, but I could be wrong. There are different ways to be powerful. Clergy and law. So this might be a reactive thing, interaction with the church. Do they need healing? Probably not. Ready? I'm a dungeon master. I'm about to do a dungeon master thing. Maybe I make it so they need healing. Right? Look, we're dungeon masters, right? We got to do stuff like this. Scurvy. So I don't know what that thing is. I'm not going to worry about that right now. Again, there's going to be a lot of not worry about that right now. But this is some kind of interaction with the church. But the church are also a big part of the law of the city. And so we need to drill down on these guys at some point. We don't really have time because, we've got several other houses we have to drill down on before, which we will do. We might keep doing the world building streams. We'll see. I might move them to a weekday. Actually, that might not be a bad idea. I might get my Saturdays back, but then we'd have many fewer viewers, which is the opposite of what I want. So the church might need Is the Church of St. Isabella? I'm trying to remember without looking it up. Right? The Church of St. Isabella may have highly developed ideas about an illrigger rolling into town. Right? So that's one of those things where there's 2 million people that live here, but only one illrigger. Mecha Sloth. Welcome back, Mecha Sloth 03. Things are going well. That's true. Do we know who gives out the magic licenses? Is it this church? Or is it the university? I think it's the university, isn't it? Yeah, it's the university. So that's the university. No magic unless you have a permit. How do you get a permit on the docks? Do you need a permit on the docks? The docks are a lot more of the permissive. It's a much more permissive environment. So it's one of those things where... Didn't we talk about that? God, I hope I don't have to... Use of magic through the city is prohibited unless you're a graduate of the university. Is it illegal to be a sorcerer? Nails might have to get bonded. It might be illegal. There might be like a... So let me just write this down. This might not be get used, but in customs... Let's insert one here. And let's say that like... This assumes Nails survives what is happening to him, and it is not obvious to me that that's going to happen. Is Nails... Does that make sense? You know, that's... Listen, I don't know if you noticed, but... I don't know if you noticed, but weird shit happened to Nails this week. Right, so he's a sorcerer. And sorcerers don't, they don't, I know, right? We're obviously we're low on, how do they tell that you're magic? That's a good question. I don't know about divine magic. Is prayer, does it, so probably, I don't think Riohans have the same attitude toward divine magic that they do toward arcane magic. This is a distinction that 5th edition does not harp on, although it does exist, right? As far as I know, there aren't any cleric spells that have a proper name in them. I think only wizard spells do. So, yeah, Pesto Enthusiast, who is also a mod, as is Lord Duroc. Lord Duroc is also in here. I think so, Reckless Robbie. You can get him, should be able to get him on our site. Right, well, Warlocks, I think, are arcane spellcasters. Yeah, but Agonizer Scorchers are... So Warlocks, Wizards, and Sorcerers are all arcane spellcasters. Whereas Druids, Clerics, and Paladins are all divine spellcasters. And then there are other spellcasters, and I don't know exactly where they fall one way or the other. But there should probably be some kind of prohibition. Yeah, I think Pesto Enthusiast is on the right track. Sorry. Stand by. I'm just going to switch out the... This dude, I'm sure, has a playlist that is just his modular music. Oh, man, that might have been what we were listening to. There was just a sudden weird, like... Here we go. Just checking to see the light levels. I wasn't just staring at myself. I do that enough. So the church, the divine, I was going to write, the divine spellcasters. So what if you're this division between arcane and divine? Definitely, I feel like I understand how the city deals with arcane spellcasters. You know, it's not a science. The law is not a science. The law is an ass. So people do illegal stuff all the time, and they don't get arrested. So that's not a big deal. I think as nerds, we tend to prefer things to be black and white. But that's not how the world works, and we're trying to model a world, right? Our Illriggers are definitely divine. So the fact that there are certainly unregistered spellcasters walking around the city that's perfectly well known, and that's not considered a bug. I referenced my first concert experience, which some of you are familiar with. Divine spellcasters, I don't think the Riohans necessarily see them as being that big of a danger. I think it's purely cultural. Yeah, I think that's it. I think it's purely cultural. They just don't see. Yeah, we don't see, caffeine as being something that has to be regulated. Alcohol's a different story, or like the difference between alcohol and marijuana. Those are both regulated, but one's illegal. So maybe that's it. Maybe that's it. Maybe that's it. Is that they sort of expect, it's like, being, you can't just, there are a lot of places in America where you would get fined if you were just walking around drinking, right? But you would not be fined if you were drinking in a bar, right? So it could be that churches and the territory controlled by churches are places where, you can pray here, but if you're doing it out in public, the cops might come and say, hey, what the hell's going on? So like divine magic is like alcohol and arcane magic is like dope. That makes sense? But is that a good idea? Yeah, I think so. I definitely like the idea that the church and the university have two different regulatory attitudes toward their stuff, and so does the culture, right? So I feel like we just learned something. Let's start a new tab. All right. And what is the name of this tab is going to be House Navarre. Because we just learned something important about House Navarre. Let's put this here. Zoop. Right. Prayers are I don't really understand how that works. I mean, like, it's a great episode now, and in fact, then, I imagine, depending on who you were and if you were watching and how woke you were, episode of Doctor Who called The Talons of Wing Chiang, in which there's a lot of Orientalism, which is this kind of quasi-uniquely British thing that I think we can do without, and a white dude playing an Asian guy, which is stupid, especially in Britain, because certainly there were tons of Asian actors around. So apart from the implicit and explicit racism, there's a lot of good writing in that episode, and there's a moment where Doctor Who, and this is my doctor, Tom Baker, who's a very different character, I think, than the modern Doctor Who, has to go to the cops, and in fact, he's basically like arrested, and brought to a police station, and they're like, so where do you live? And, what's your name and address? And he goes, my name is the doctor, and I'm a traveler. And the guy writes down, no fixed abode. He goes, no, we do have a fixed abode. It's called the TARDIS. And the cop's like, I could very quick, if you're gonna fuck around with me, I could very quickly give you a fixed abode, like that cell right over there, right? So that notion that like these guys, the chain, are going to be subject to law. So what's it like, if they find somebody, what does that mean? They have to pay it right then? Do they get a chitty, a piece of paper saying, here, go pay this, you have a certain amount of time? Like, what happens if the chain gets a parking ticket? These are things we got to think about, because they're going to come up. We can't just make these assumptions that there's going to be these laws. We have to actually think about how they are enforced on a player-facing level. Like, if the players are going to be on the docks, they're going to get in a fight, somebody's going to try and rob them. These are encounters I may not even ever design. I may just extemporaneously create, Somebody's going to try and rob them. Somebody's going to, What happens when the cops show up? What happens if the chain gets fined? How is a fine enforced? Like, probably, you got to pay it now. I should probably look this up. You got to pay it now, or come to the Hoosgow. Well, Orc Luck, I think maybe I haven't explained myself well. I'm not looking for a list of laws. I'm looking to understand what is your personal experience as a citizen of capital if you break a law? What happens to the chain if they break a law, if a cop shows up? I don't know the answer, but it's probably something like you guys could pay now or pay later a warrant out for your arrest, obviously. Yeah, that's probably it. That's probably it. It's probably, so let's the House Navarre are the law guys, so this is probably the tab we're going to do a little bit of work enforcing. I don't know how to spell that word. Do I? Good Lord. I think I know how to spell that word. Pretty standard, but now I feel like I have an understanding of what's going to happen. So prayer is fine in a church, but see what happens, what that means is prayer, it's prayer being fine in a church, or it means you have to, it's kind of the same as being licensed, right? Like if the church is going to have really, really specific ideas about a enemy priest casting spells in their church. So there's this implicit thing of like, you can buy beer here legally, but it better be our brand of beer. Does that make sense? Xylon Hurst, I think you have mistaken the nature of the stream. I apologize, but this is the world building stream. That's a good question, Tally First. What does the Chronicle have in it regarding... Well, I mean, if King wants to, King can probably learn a lot of this stuff. But also, actually, you know, I mean, he would have to do a lot of reading, because it's not going to have, like, the laws written down in it. It's just going to have, it's going to tell the story about this thing that happened in a tavern that the chronicler wrote down just because it was noteworthy. And it might mention that the cops showed up and what they did. And then King would have to try to reverse engineer, what does that mean? You know, the Chronicle is just a diary. Would anyone care about healing in the streets? That's a good question. I think that normal people, yeah, it depends. Like, that's a good question. That's a good question. So what happens if King tries to heal somebody? I don't think this is a bad question to ask, and I think there's probably a good and straightforward answer. So King, they get in a fight and King heals somebody. Who sees it? Right? Who sees it? On the docks, because the docks are not a church-controlled, you know, there would be room. A normal person would probably be like, oh, I assume that guy works for some church. I don't know. That's a good question. Oh, I forgot about the flying carpet thing getting around. They're definitely going to see. Let's call this arrival. No, let's keep it the docks. Stand by. Excuse me. Pardon me. Maybe another one was coming. So, if King heals somebody, so let's start with first principles, right? They get in a fight, and King heals a member of the chain, and somebody sees it. That person... does that person care that somebody just used magic on the street? Mostly no, because I've got a life to live, right? I'm not going to necessarily report a crime, especially a crime like that. So mostly no. But some people would be like, whoa, that guy is wearing a foreign army's uniform. That's dangerous, isn't it? Why is there a foreign army doing its thing here in the city? Right? Has anybody talked to the police about this? And eventually it's going to get to the cops or the church. And the church is going to show up and say, hey, it's got to make there's definitely an important character here. Nails or Judge are going to meet a church cop. And I think this person, the last time my players met a church cop, it was a guy, so let's mix it up. I think this woman is going to be a super important contact for them, because the last time we did this, the church cop they met was kind of like the only person in the city that believed in them. Everybody else was trying to exploit them, not the chain, the heroes, in one way or another, or manipulate them. But this one cop was just trying to, be a good cop. And this church cop, this is their interaction with House Navarre. What is that interaction going to be? Hey, you want to keep doing your thing. This is going to be a big part of, and Phil's going to hate this, which I love. This is going to be a big part of the chain's early experience. Is if you want to just walk around the city and be who you want to be and not have to worry about somebody arresting you, then you need a patron. Right? Because that way, when keep in mind, there's lots of different cops. There's lots of different cops. There's, just like in America, there's state police, there's the city police, there's the FBI, there's the fucking marshals, there's the rangers, there's the CIA, which are technically not allowed to operate on. So there's all these different crazy kind of cops and people that are trying to. Some of them are trying to stop the city from exploding into chaos and violence, and some of them are trying to exploit their power for their own personal ends. But there's Coast Guard, Highway Patrol. Highway Patrol aren't an independent cop thing, but yeah. So this is, you want to keep doing your thing in the city. You need a patron. That's probably going to be the church cop, who's like, guys, yeah, I know you were robbed, but people get robbed all the time in Rioja, and they don't react by fucking casting spells. If somebody's wounded, go to a church. And this stuff, the players are going to hate it. I'm going to say that. The players are going to hate it. But it's a perfectly reasonable thing to say. And if somebody's wounded, take them to a church. Look, I can see a church from here, man. It'll take you 5 minutes to get there. What are you doing? With this, are you trying to scare the horses? Come on, man. This isn't fucking Vaslorier, the shithole place where people sleep with pigs and root around. This is a civilized city. I don't know what you folks are used to, and they're gonna be like, well, I'm used to Alloy. And so somebody like Judge should be able to be like, I get it. Because Alloy, if you've read Strongholds and Followers, Alloy has like giant sources of earth and water walking around making sure people obey the so this is where human experience conflicts with D&D play. Is that the players want to just use their abilities higgledy-piggledy. But they're going to be in a city. And so that's going to be one of those things that the players aren't going to like. But then once they go on an adventure, once they're underground or in a warehouse having a fight or something, there's no witnesses. No one's going to see. So I feel like we're learning a lot. This is a signal to noise ratio of the stream might not be great. There might be a lot of me just wondering things, but we are definitely making progress. I want to stop at 5, take a break, and then play some NetHack. So I apologize. I do a lot of apologizing, but and I know there are some people that annoys. I'm sorry. But I'm always thinking of the viewer. I'm always thinking about you folks and your perception of things and whether or not things are useful or entertaining or watchable. So they're going to have and you can see there's kind of an order to this stuff. There's an order to this. They're going to have to exchange their gold for notes. They're going to get their stuff's going to be searched. They're going to have to deal with import duties. I love this. Man in a suit just happens to be dead. It won't be obvious at first that they're talking to a fucking zombie or some shit, right? And they're going to be like, "Is this guy dead?" Yes. Well, name is Zykes. I'm glad. Zykes. This is insanely watchable. Well, of course you would say that. You're still here. People who are like, how do people watch this have already tuned out. I'm not super worried about the judicial system yet. We'll burn that bridge when we get to it. That's one of those things that I'll know about. I'll know I need to figure that out in advance. Flash. So Nails is going to be given a grace period. They don't have a wizard. They have a sorcerer. Well, they currently have a sorcerer. They might not by the time they get to fucking. Who knows? So does anybody watching? I apologize. Does anybody watching? Hello, Knoxville Buckeye. Does anybody watching know what's going on with Nails because of the silver eye thing? Somebody should. Somebody somewhere should know. I'm really curious. Can I ask questions about video games now? After NetHack, probably. I bonsai bot. I will say that it is not a thing to read. It is a thing to watch. Taco Man, thank you for this sub 4 months in a row. Wow, I have taken something that I think should be something everybody knows. I've taken something that I think every nerd should be familiar with. And no one fucking knows what it is. That makes me so happy. God, I'm a genius. No, I'm not a genius. Yeah, people just don't know. Makes me happy. Okay. Anyway, so yeah, Nails is, we're going to learn a little bit, I think, about what the difference between like a sorcerer and a wizard is. So like sorcerers have to learn wizards have to learn stuff. Warlocks have to convince people to give them power. But sorcerers, it's innate. It's like genetic. They're like basically X-Men. That's not a hint, by the way. My God, it's full of stars. Korgogrison asked, what was the question? I was just asking about a good recipe for flavored seasoned taco meat. And I got a lot of good answers, so we can move on. So, yeah, Nails is going to be given a grace period, right? Because this is bureaucracy. This is the way the world works. Nails is certainly not the first sorcerer to walk off a ship on a capital, and they don't just execute them or evict them. They're like, okay, no problem. Well, you can stay on the docks. You're not going to be able to leave the docks without registering with the university. But you're going to have 3 days. You have 3 days to register with the university. So, therefore, it has to be possible to register with the university. In the docks, there has to be some representation of the university, which is, as we know, House Alvaro, which didn't I already? Nope. Probably it's a library is what I'm thinking. Library? Libraries? 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 No. Libraries are like Ben Franklin, right? Like, that's too modern. Might be too modern a thing. People are asking about alchemists. That's not a thing I'm worried about. Well, I mean, but it's like the DMV is not, I don't think, I mean, it's accurate, but I don't think useful. Yes. Louis Lelion. Or, yes. Yes, it is. I'll get better at that, though. I'm trying to think of... By the way, at least one person in chat does know, did respond positively to my question about nails. So I'm trying to think of what the experience would be. Like, what building is it in? What building is it in? What organization would I go to that's a university adjunct? And it might be something like a Scrivener's, like a you know, trying to think of, I'm out of all liquid. No, I don't think it has anything to do with customs. It's a law. Like, if I want to go register a gun, I don't go to customs, right? So it's probably like a notary public, right? Because it's literally just, it's literally just you go and you get a little thing that says this is my name and this is where we're staying. And probably like if this probably won't happen, but if Nails goes there and cannot at least name a tavern that they're staying in, they're not going to give him a license. Sorry, man. Like, I need to at least know where you're staying, bro. And but it's yeah, it might be like I did say signet ring, but what was that? That was, in fact, can I search? No, I probably, actually, maybe I can. Tools? How do I search through all my sheets? Insert, view, edit. File. If this were insert, robo, no, it's not gonna be insert. It's not gonna be format, data. I just want to search through all of my data. Sort, create, filter, pivot, named, protect, group, nope. I just want to search for, I did have the idea of, well, Control F is going to search this page because Control F is a function of, hello, I know how to use a computer. Control F is a function of the web browser I'm using, but I'm hoping that I can search through all my different tabs and find where what other tabs are there? Wow, there's a lot of tabs. A signet ring from the university. I keep coming back to like, well, so what service? The Imperial University has a lot of power. There's definitely, this is something I think I want to make sure people understand. There are all of these organizations control other things that don't have anything to do with the brand of, like, the Imperial University owns and controls all this stuff, much of which doesn't necessarily have anything to do with teaching students, right? So there's definitely some of that, and I'm thinking of like, a place where you get like a notary public, like a place you get what is the office of a notary public called? What is that called? I think, hang on a minute. Yeah, a scribe, a scrivener. I think it's a scrivener's office. And they do legal documents. Let me see. Let me look up. It was the church that does a lot of law stuff. So it might be the church. F. I'm going to worry about this later. I've done a lot of thinking about it and not made a lot of progress, and that's usually a sign that I've gone down the wrong road. So we'll get there. I don't have to have this answer right now. 444. Something we don't know about, so many people have asked about this, is gambling in the city, so we should definitely deal with that, but not today. They're going to exchange their gold for notes. Customs is going to search their gear and belongings. It's going to be a whole interaction. Don't know how that's going to work yet. We definitely have to have some, for the adventure, it can't just be bureaucracy. There's going to have to be some conflict, and that often means some fighting, although who and with what I do not know. So Renoxius has asked a question. How do they know he's a spellcaster? Let me ask you a question, Renoxius. How does anyone know anyone's a spellcaster? How do you know if somebody is a spellcaster? So the mayor of space answered the question correctly. They cast spells. You know someone's a spellcaster when they cast spells. So these are things that are going to happen when the players are on the docks. It's just like if when King prays and heals someone, somebody's going to notice. When Nails casts a spell, someone's going to notice. Much more likely they're going to notice Nails than King, because some of King's magic, well, that's not true. King's magic is like Zorch, but people are asking about him healing. So it's going to be... I think we're going to stop Dolus 87. I think we're almost done. Because we've written a lot of stuff down. We have a bunch of notes, a bunch of definitely actionable stuff, right? There's going to be an interaction with the church, interaction with House Alvaro. Let's just look. We've got House Alvaro. Let's just see if there's any other. Read a broadsheet. Oh wait, no. Where's the reporter? Didn't I say reporter's going to ask him something? Where'd that thing go? I know it's in here. Meet a reporter. So this is interaction with the Broadsheet Guild. Oh, that's also the Filquin. Wait, stand by. Wait, hang on a minute. Oh, sponsored into the nobility by the Fulcrum. I'm sorry. Interaction with the Broadsheet Guild. Right. Which, did I never come up with a name for the Broadsheet Guild? That's terrible. What a bad world builder I am. Oh my god, why do you people watch this show? Is there really not a name for the Broadsheet Guild anywhere in here? Well, we gotta fix that. Here, let's make some fucking progress. Actually, isn't it? No, that's not. I do feel. John, I loved your nails art. I thought that was great. And I can tell you, Tom thought it was fantastic. So you guys know how we're going to do this, right? You guys know how the guilds get named, right? No, the sheets are what they call a paper. The sheets are what they call a paper. So the way the guilds get named is they're named at, yeah, we're going to look up a printing press, correct. And we're going to find some term from printing presses that is obscure, but if you are a printer, you know it. You know it. Are they called the gloss? Because there was definitely I had an earlier version of this document where it was all guilds, which is ironically a future version of the city. But no, the gloss were the scribes. The gloss were the scribes. They were not the printing folks. The leaf are the playwrights guild. Although obviously these things are related. Right? Glosses are things you put in manuscripts. Leaf is a thing of stuff. You guys know the definition of chemming, right? It is the result of improper kerning. So, you guys know that stereotype and cliche are both terms that come from printing. And cliche is onomatopoetic. A cliche is the sound it's the sound that the printing thing makes. No, Duke Kenway went to school in this version of Capital, I think. Yeah, cliche and stereotype both come from printing. So what I'm looking for, and what I don't have, is like a diagram of all the parts. Let's take out this diagram of Gutenberg's printing press. Letterpress printing. Let's look up letterpress printing. Aha, look at that, the diagram. There's the pivot. That's not bad. That's kind of like the fulcrum. There's the block. I don't mind that, but these are... typography. Let's call it the font. That'd be funny. Actually, it's not a bad name. You know, serifs, there's, you know, serifs come from, at least the what I was told, this is something I learned before the internet, that are a result of hammering into like stone. And when you hammer a letter into like marble, all of the places that are like this, you get these little cracks in the marble, in the stone. And the serif on a font is designed to fill in those little, artistically, go where those cracks would go. I feel like the font is a pretty good name. And you get sans serif fonts once the technology for printing gets better. Hello, Jersey Arsenal. Well, thank you for watching. Let's go with the font for now. Because remember, before Steve Jobs, who had to take a class, an elective class to just get his degree and didn't actually give a shit about this stuff, but it will sound interesting. Normal people did not know what the term font was. Before the Macintosh, normal people did not understand, that was not a term that normal people knew. Which I can attest to because I was alive and my brain was basically online at that point. Font is something, it was a term you learn. I've been using computers for years. And I had no idea what the term font meant. Never encountered it. Not a normal thing people talked about. Then the Macintosh comes along and suddenly fonts are things normal people know about. You know what I hate? I used to be a Mac user for, I don't know, 10 years, 15 years before I switched to the PC. Because they had games on the PC. And I had a really well-organized and vast collection of fonts that were awesome. And now my font collection on my PC is just this grabastic collection of nonsense. And it makes me wonder if there is like font manager software that's not just, you know, anyway. So, where were we? We were at the docks. I don't think this name is gonna last. But I just want to go through here and understand what the different interactions are going to be. I still don't know about the language and the culture. And we need reactive things and proactive things. Like reactive meaning things for the characters to react to and things for them to want to do. Knowing what you know now, this is not a trick question. Knowing what you know now, if you were the members of the chain and you arrived in capital, what would you want to do? What would your first things be? We're here in the city, now what? Don't overthink it. Yeah, get a drink. So that's what they're gonna. Well, find allies. That's not again. That's a bad verb. You guys saw the verb thing, right? Definitely set up a base of operations. Maybe buy a place. They might want to buy a place. Well, we definitely have, like, you know, that they're going to place. We already have a place to stay, but they might want to buy a place. They probably won't want to buy. If they're smart, they probably won't want to buy a place on the docks because it's kind of the city outside the city, right? Go shopping, but see, again, that's a bad verb. Javelin 05. To buy what? The answer to the question, what are they going to buy, is the answer I'm looking for. We need this. Like, yeah, I don't go to the grocery store because I want to go shopping. I go to the grocery store because I need food. So it seems, see, this is why, yeah, so really there's not much for the heroes. So what we've learned is there isn't really much for the heroes to do proactively. What they're going to do, their number one thing when they get to the city is going to be find a place to stay, right? Get information. What information? I agree they're going to need some information, but that's, again, that's a bad verb. They're going to need, we need to find out what. So a place to stay is probably going to be the only thing, and everything else is going to have to be reactive, which is fine. It's my job as a dungeon master to give them things to react to. And it's their reactions which will give them things to be proactive about. That's not a bug. So, yeah, they're going to need a place to stay. I'm going to give them a couple of options. You know, 3 options like these are just a safe, so we have ideas for interactions with the Fulcrum, House Verona, with the Dead Lady, House Alvaro, House Navarre, the Font. What's the one we're missing? The Rasp. Of course, they need transportation. Okay. So you know what they might want to do, by the way? The players might want to right? If the players are smart, and they are, but this may not be foremost in their mind. If the players are smart, they should eventually start asking, how did Ajax get a flying city? And either A, how do we get a flying city? Or B, how do we stop him from having a flying city? That is a definite thread they can pull on. And that thread might lead all the way to the end of the campaign. That might be 10 levels of adventure. Hello, Pelador. Things are going well. Well, did the city warp in, or had it been there all the time and it was just hidden? whoa, whoa. I think it did warp in. I don't think that's something he can do whenever he wants. But so does that city? I don't think it can land. All right. So these are things they might want to do, and this might be, you know, right? And that's something they're going to have to leave the docs to do. They're not going to be able to get the answer to this on the docs. And they're going to want to... why are we going to make sure that they have some interaction, maybe not all in the first session, probably be unrealistic for that. They're going to have some interaction in the first week or two, game time-wise, with all the different factions in the city, because they need a sponsor. It's good narrative. Hey, here are the players. Here's the dramatis personae. But it's also, in fiction, they need a sponsor. The reason they need a sponsor is because if they want to leave the docks and get to use their weapons, they need to become knights. They need to become knights. They need to be knighted, which is easy to do. It's very easy to do. There are thousands of them throughout the city. A knighthood is not hard to come by. And, you know, if they want to leave the docks and go, so we have to give them reasons to leave the docks. You can do this and you can do that and you can do the other thing, but you're going to have to do that over here. You're going to have to do it over here. Because it's entirely possible to run a campaign from like 1st to 5th level just in the docks. It's a whole city. So it is 5:02. We've been streaming now with some success for a little over 2 hours, of which maybe there was an hour of actual content. But yeah, yes, they are the chain. They are famous, so some people will seek them out. But I'm not sure the major powers would do it. I think some of the minor powers would do it first. I think the major powers would rather sit back and wait and watch, because that's what major powers are about. Yes, that's the idea. Zeus Milk So Zeus Milk just asked 2 questions, and in combination, I do not understand them. This campaign is only going to take place in the city. No adventuring. It's a D&D campaign. How do you? Everything's an adventure, isn't it? What does that mean, Zeus Milk? How can you not have an adventure in the city? The whole campaign takes place in the city, therefore there's no adventure? What? Like, you know, didn't Caravaggio like die in a fight over some avocados in a city? That would have been a hell of an adventure. So we're going to stop. I'm going to take a break. I'm going to get some food. And when we come back, which will probably be an hour or 2, we'll play some NetHack, which is going to be a very different kettle of fish. But this is the first... This is the first part of a 2 or 3 part stream that is going to result in us having a pretty clear idea of what goes on the docks and what kind of adventure there is. And I think at this point, I need to know who these people are. We have organizations. We have organizations and motivations, but we don't have personalities. And we have to attach personalities to these things. And once we've done that, then we'll be able to run until we know who the people are that represent these interactions. We cannot run. Once we know who they are, then I think we're free to let the players run around. It'll also be nice to have like a map, you know, so that I know that might be an offline thing because that's kind of tedious. So thanks for watching. We did learn a lot, and we're on our way. The players hopefully will not get to Capital before us. I don't think that's where there's in danger of that, but I don't know what's the future of these streams is going to be, because at some point I think we're going to keep building Capital forever, but they might not always be on Saturday morning. We'll see. Maps can be so tedious, but they must be dealt with. Correct. People seem to like that line of dialogue. That makes me happy. Yeah, tally first. That's what we do. Is I sit here and I just think out loud. Oh, the diary. Yeah, I got to write the campaign diary probably Monday, and I also have to write the chronicle. I got to write the chronicle. Well, the Taco Man, my weekends are not as important as the health of the company. And I know there are a lot of people who are like, I don't actually care about MCDM as a company. I just want more videos. But that's the way, like, you know, I can't go back in time to that era at Turtle Rock Studios where there wasn't really anything for me to do. So I could just make videos and stuff like that. Now I gotta pay the bills and stuff like that. Shouldn't Lars be writing the Chronicle now? Well, not if we want it to be read. I would say Lars is certainly the best writer of the QA folks that I have met. But what Lars does is he basically tells me what kind of stuff he thinks King would put in the Chronicle, and then I go write that. So that seems like a healthy relationship. If you wanted to write it, I would certainly say, yeah, go for it. And then I would just edit it. So that's that. I will see you folks. Some of you folks I'll see later tonight for some NetHack. And then, yeah, he was the director of QA with quite a large team underneath him. Twice, 2 different companies. Which is why he's the kind of the perfect person also as a D&D nerd now through many campaigns to be the first line of defense in testing and debugging things like Strongholds and Followers. So yeah, I'm gonna go get something to eat. Thanks for tuning in, and we are on our way. We're almost to Capital. Still things that bug me is I don't know these people and I don't know the language they're gonna use. I feel like once I've got that worked out, I also need to go figure out adventure-wise. I want to make sure there's 2 or 3 different adventure threads. There may be one big adventure that is the capital adventure, probably a dungeon, something like a dungeon. But I talked to Matt Mercer about this yesterday because I've never really run D&D like this. I typically go buy an adventure, and maybe I buy several so the players can have lots of choices. But that way, pre-written, I rarely roll my own adventure unless it's going to be really short, because that way I can spend my time, instead of inventing a bunch of stuff, tweaking things. Oh, I'm not a cartographer. Look at all these maps this guy put in. It's great, awesome, fantastic. And I change the names and stuff, and maybe sometimes the motivations of bad guys or whatever. But I'm in a position now where whatever this adventure is that the players are going to go on, we could write it up and sell it and people would buy it. And so, but that's not necessarily, we have to deal with what's possible. And spending all my time designing an adventure, a unique adventure for Capital, it might be more efficient for me just to go and grab some online. We'll see. Until next time.